the silent failure. Before the first step, most people believe failure happens at the end of a journey. They think it comes after months of trying, after a collapsed business, after losing motivation at the gym, or after a broken routine. But the uncomfortable truth is this: most people fail before they even start. They don't fail on the battlefield, they fail in the preparation, they fail in their thinking, they fail in their planning. And they fail in the small, hidden moments when no one is watching. Today, I want to expose the reasons behind this silent failure. Because if you understand why people give up before they begin, you can learn how to bypass the traps that destroy dreams at their roots. The illusion of ready. The first reason most people fail before they start is the illusion of being ready. Think about how often you've heard someone say, "I'll start when I'm ready." They'll start the business when they have the perfect idea. They'll get in shape when the schedule clears up. They'll begin writing when inspiration strikes. But here's the truth: ready is a mirage. There will never be a perfect time. There will never be a moment where all conditions align. People who succeed understand this. They begin even when conditions are chaotic, even when they are scared, even when they don't have the resources. Meanwhile, those who chase readiness build castles in the sky. They stay trapped in preparation, researching, planning, waiting. And when months or years pass by, they quietly realize that the perfect time never came. The project never launched. The dream never materialized. The failure happened before the first action. Fear disguised as logic. Let's dig deeper. Another invisible enemy is fear disguised as logic. When you think about starting something new, your brain immediately searches for reasons to delay. It says, "I don't have enough experience," or "I need more money first," or "I should wait until next year when things calm down." These excuses sound rational, but behind them is fear. Fear of embarrassment, fear of rejection, fear of wasted effort. Fear is clever. It doesn't scream at you directly. Instead, it whispers through rational-sounding arguments. And because it feels like logic, most people accept it as truth. They don't recognize it for what it is, a safety mechanism that kills momentum. High achievers train themselves to detect this disguise. When they feel the urge to delay, they ask, "Am I making a smart decision, or am I just protecting myself from discomfort?" If the answer is discomfort, they move forward anyway. Most people never start because they demand certainty in an uncertain world. They want to know every possible outcome before they take the first step. Here's the problem: life doesn't reveal the whole map. You only see the next step, maybe the next two. Success is built by moving into the unknown, adapting and learning along the way. Overthinkers waste months analyzing scenarios, trying to predict every variable, and while they analyze, someone else takes action, fails fast, learns quickly, and gains ground. By the time the overthinker feels ready, they are already years behind. The irony is this: the more you think about doing something, the harder it becomes to do. Action gets heavier, scarier, more overwhelming. That's why most people fail at the starting line. They think themselves into paralysis. The addiction to inspiration. Let's talk about something uncomfortable: the addiction to inspiration. Millions of people consume motivational videos, quotes, podcasts, and books every day. It feels empowering. It feels like progress. But consuming motivation isn't the same as creating results. When you listen to someone else's success story, you feel a temporary high. Dopamine floods your brain. You imagine yourself succeeding, and for a few minutes it feels real. But then the feeling fades and you look around. Nothing has changed. This cycle is dangerous. You chase the next motivational video, the next book, the next seminar, and all the while you postpone the work that actually creates transformation. You become a fan of success instead of a participant in it. True growth requires shifting from inspiration to execution. Use motivation as a spark, but immediately channel it into action. Otherwise it becomes just another drug that keeps you dreaming but never doing. The comfort of planning. Closely related is the comfort of planning. Planning feels productive. You can spend hours creating lists, schedules, goals, and outlines. But planning is safe. Planning doesn't expose you to risk. That's why people love it. They get the satisfaction of feeling busy without the vulnerability of actually acting. But here's the raw truth. A perfect plan on paper is useless without messy execution in real life. Most people fail before they start because they fall in love with the idea of progress instead of the reality of progress. They confuse planning with momentum. But real success comes when you stop polishing the blueprint and finally pick up the hammer. The hidden enemy, identity. There's a deeper layer still, identity. Many people sabotage themselves before starting because deep down they don't see themselves as the kind of person who succeeds. If your identity is rooted in self-doubt, I'm not disciplined, I'm not smart enough, I'm not built for this, then every opportunity feels like a mismatch. The subconscious mind resists actions that conflict with identity. That's why people quit before they begin. It's not laziness, it's self-protection. The brain says, "This isn't who I am," and kills the attempt before it starts. The solution isn't to chase motivation, it's to reshape identity. You must decide, I am the type of person who follows through, I am the type who learns, I am the type who begins before I feel ready. When identity shifts, action follows naturally. Fear and identity, the invisible chains. When we think of failure, we often imagine something dramatic, a business collapsing, a relationship ending, a dream crashing down in public view. But the truth is far quieter and far more dangerous. Most failures are born in the mind, long before the first step is taken. Two forces sit at the heart of this hidden failure, fear and identity. These invisible chains control people's actions more than they realize. To break free and finally start, you must learn how to spot, confront, and dismantle them. Fear is a master of disguise. Fear rarely shows up in its raw form. You don't wake up thinking, "I'm afraid to fail today." Instead, fear puts on masks. It wears the mask of practicality, the mask of logic, the mask of being realistic. You want to start a business. Fear whispers, "Better save more money first. The economy is unstable." You want to get in shape. Fear suggests, "You'll look ridiculous at the gym. Everyone will judge you." You want to speak on stage. Fear says, "You're not ready yet." Do more research. Each of these excuses sounds rational, but peel back the layers and you'll see fear hiding underneath smiling. The problem is that most people never question these thoughts. They accept them as truth. They don't realize they're negotiating with fear every time they delay action. And in that negotiation, fear always wins. The biology of fear. Your brain is wired for survival, not success. Thousands of years ago, survival meant avoiding risk. If you stepped out of the cave unprepared, you could die. So your brain evolved to scream danger whenever you face uncertainty. That ancient wiring hasn't updated for the modern world. Starting a business won't kill you. Uploading a video won't end your life. Speaking in public won't summon a predator, but your nervous system reacts as if it might. Your heart races. Your palms sweat. Your mind invents reasons to stop. This is fear in its purest form, an outdated survival instinct sabotaging your progress. Understanding this is liberating. You don't need to eliminate fear, you need to reinterpret it. Instead of hearing danger, hear growth. Because in modern life, fear rarely signals life-threatening risk. It signals the edge of your comfort zone, and that's exactly where you need to go. Identity, the self-sabotage machine. If fear is the lock, identity is the chain that keeps it sealed. Your identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are. It's your inner label. I'm shy, I'm undisciplined, I'm not good with money, I always quit. These stories are powerful because the human brain craves consistency. We want our actions to match our self-image, even when that image is limiting. Here's an example. If someone sees themselves as the type of person who never follows through, then starting a new project feels unnatural. Their subconscious resists. They procrastinate, self-sabotage, and create chaos, just to prove themselves right. This is why most people never begin. They don't fail because the task is too hard. They fail because their identity is misaligned with their ambition. They want success, but deep down they don't see themselves as successful. That conflict kills momentum before it's born. How fear and identity work together. Fear and identity are partners in crime. Fear raises the alarm, this is risky, don't start. Identity nods in agreement, you're not the type who can handle this anyway. The two reinforce each other. Fear prevents action. Inaction confirms the identity of someone who doesn't follow through. That identity then makes fear louder the next time. It's a vicious loop, and most people live in it their entire lives. Breaking the chains. Step 1. Awareness. The first step to freedom is awareness. You cannot fight what you cannot see. Start noticing the thoughts that arise when you consider doing something new. Ask yourself, is this really a logical reason, or is it fear in disguise? Is this delay protecting me, or is it sabotaging me? Does this action actually conflict with my true self, or just with my outdated identity? Awareness breaks the spell. Once you see fear and identity for what they are, you can stop mistaking them for truth. Breaking the chains. Step 2. Redefine identity. Here's the key. Your identity isn't fixed. It's malleable. You can rewrite it. Instead of I'm not disciplined, shift to I'm becoming more disciplined every day. Instead of I always quit, shift to I'm the type of person who starts again and again until I succeed. Notice the subtle difference. You don't have to lie to yourself. You don't have to pretend you're perfect, but you can claim the identity of someone who grows, who adapts, who refuses to stay stuck. Over time, small actions reinforce this new identity. Every time you follow through, even in a tiny way, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. And eventually, the votes stack up. You look in the mirror and realize, I am disciplined, I am resilient, I am a starter. Breaking the chains. Step 3. Redefine fear. Fear will never vanish. But you can change your relationship with it. When you feel fear, recognize it as proof you're moving in the right direction. It means you're stretching beyond the ordinary. It means you're stepping into growth. High performers reframe fear as fuel. They don't wait for it to disappear. They use it as a compass pointing toward the areas of life with the greatest potential payoff. So when fear whispers, don't do this, you can smile and say, thank you for confirming this is exactly where I need to go. Overthinking and paralysis. Why waiting kills momentum. If fear is the spark that ignites hesitation, overthinking is the fuel that keeps the fire burning. It doesn't just delay action, it paralyzes it. And in today's world, where information is endless and decisions feel overwhelming, overthinking has become one of the most common ways people fail before they even start. The trap of needing certainty. At the root of overthinking is the human desire for certainty. We want to know, without a doubt, that what we are about to do will work. We want guarantees. We want safety. But life doesn't offer certainty. Every action carries risk. Every new endeavor is clouded with unknowns. The business might not succeed. The fitness program might not deliver fast results. The YouTube channel might not go viral. Most people can't stomach this uncertainty. So they wait. They keep researching, keep planning, keep getting ready, until months or years slip by, and by the time they finally consider acting, the opportunity has passed, or someone else has already claimed it. The reality is simple. Waiting for certainty is the fastest way to guarantee failure. The illusion of perfect information. Overthinkers live under the illusion that more information equals better decisions. They convince themselves, if I just learn a little more, then I'll know exactly what to do. So they consume endlessly. They watch tutorials, read articles, ask for advice, compare options, analyze scenarios. And while learning is valuable, it has a dark side. It can become a substitute for doing. Think about it. Have you ever spent hours researching the best way to start, only to feel more overwhelmed than when you began? That's the paradox of overthinking. The more you know, the less clear things feel. Action, on the other hand, simplifies. Once you actually begin, the unnecessary details fall away. You learn by doing. You gain clarity from experience, not theory. The fear of wrong choices. Another reason people overthink is the fear of making the wrong choice. They worry, what if I waste time? What if I waste money? What if I embarrass myself? This fear leads to endless deliberation. But here's the paradox. Not choosing is the worst choice of all. When you delay action, you don't protect yourself from failure. You guarantee stagnation. And stagnation is failure in disguise. The world moves forward while you stand still. The truth is that wrong choices aren't fatal. They're feedback. Each mistake is a stepping stone. Each failure is data that sharpens your approach. Success is rarely about making the perfect choice. It's about making enough choices and adjusting along the way. The cost of inaction. Overthinking doesn't just waste time, it carries a heavy opportunity cost. Every day you spend thinking instead of doing is a day you lose momentum, confidence, and growth. Imagine two people. One spends 6 months researching how to start a YouTube channel. The other starts immediately, makes 20 videos, learns what works, and grows through trial and error. At the end of 6 months, who's ahead? Not the thinker. The doer has data, feedback, and a foundation. The thinker has plans. Inaction is invisible failure. No one sees it. No one mocks you for it. But it slowly kills your potential. It's failure disguised as safety. The overthinking. Perfectionism. Loop overthinking often pairs with perfectionism. People believe they must have the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect strategy before starting. But perfection is unattainable, and the pursuit of perfection becomes the excuse to never act. You'll hear phrases like, "Once I get everything right, I'll begin. I just need a little more preparation. I'll wait until conditions are ideal." But ideal never comes, and perfectionists end up living in a loop. Planning first doubting, adjusting, delaying first delaying, first planning again. The loop never ends because it's designed to avoid action. The irony, true excellence is only possible through imperfection. You must begin clumsy, awkward, and unprepared, because only through starting do you gain the skill to refine. Breaking free, action over analysis. So how do you break free from the prison of overthinking? The answer is bias toward action. Instead of asking, "What's the perfect way?" ask, "What's the next small step I can take right now?" Want to start a business? Don't design the entire empire, just test one small offer. Want to get fit? Don't create a 12-month plan. Just go for a workout today. Want to write a book? Don't outline every chapter, just write 1 page. Action destroys overthinking, because the moment you move, your brain shifts from theory to reality. And reality is clarifying. The 80% rule. One powerful strategy is the 80% rule. If a plan feels 80% clear, move forward. Don't wait for 100% certainty. It doesn't exist. This approach forces you to accept imperfection. It trains you to adapt in motion. And it builds a habit of starting before you're fully ready, which is the hallmark of successful people. Remember, progress requires imperfection, and perfection is the enemy of progress. From waiting to momentum. Every great achievement begins not with certainty, but with courage. The courage to act without knowing the outcome. The courage to start messy. The courage to look foolish, to stumble, to fail, and to keep moving anyway. Waiting feels safe, but it kills momentum. Starting feels scary, but it creates momentum, and momentum is everything. Once you're moving, even small steps compound. They build confidence, they create opportunities, they lead you further than you imagined. The hardest part of any journey isn't the middle or the end, it's the beginning. Once you conquer overthinking and take that first step, the rest begins to unfold. The addiction to inspiration. Why motivation alone doesn't work. If fear paralyzes people and overthinking delays them, then inspiration is the drug that tricks them into believing they are moving forward when they're not. On the surface, inspiration seems like a good thing. After all, what's wrong with watching a motivational video, reading a powerful book, or listening to an inspiring podcast? The problem isn't inspiration itself. The problem is when people become addicted to it, the dopamine trap. Every time you watch a motivational speech or hear a success story, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine. For a moment, you feel unstoppable. You imagine yourself chasing your dreams, and the emotional high feels like progress. But here's the cruel trick. Dopamine rewards you for imagining success, not achieving it. You feel as if you've accomplished something, but in reality nothing has changed. No step has been taken, no habit has been built, no work has been done. This is why millions of people can consume hours of motivational content and yet remain stuck. They aren't building momentum, they're chasing a chemical high. Fans of success versus participants in success. There are two types of people, those who are fans of success and those who are participants in success. Fans watch others win, and they feel good about it. They know all the quotes, the authors, the speakers, the gurus, but their lives remain the same. Participants may not consume much motivational content at all, but they act. They stumble, they fail, they learn, and eventually they succeed. The fans fail before they start because they confuse inspiration with execution. They spend years watching from the sidelines instead of stepping onto the field. Why people choose inspiration over action. Why is the addiction to inspiration so common? Because action is uncomfortable, while inspiration is safe. Action requires risk. Inspiration does not. Action requires vulnerability. Inspiration does not. Action requires consistency. Inspiration does not. When you act, you risk rejection, embarrassment, and failure. When you consume inspiration, you feel empowered without any of the consequences. It's an emotional shortcut, a way to feel progress without doing the hard work. The endless search for the secret. Another danger of inspiration addiction is the belief that the next book, video, or seminar will contain the secret. People think, maybe I just haven't found the right method yet, so they keep searching. They binge motivational content like someone binging TV shows. They convince themselves that once they find the missing piece, then they'll finally act. But here's the truth, there is no secret. Success isn't hidden in the next video. It isn't locked away in a book you haven't read yet. Success comes from doing, not consuming. The tools you already have are enough to begin. How inspiration should be used. Inspiration isn't evil. In fact, it can be powerful when used correctly. The problem is that most people use it as the destination instead of the ignition. Think of inspiration like a match. A match can light a fire, but it only burns for a few seconds. If you don't use that spark to ignite fuel, the flame dies out. Motivation is the same. It's a short burst of energy. If you don't immediately channel it into action, it evaporates. So instead of binging hours of motivational content, use a tiny dose to spark action. Listen to a speech, then take a step. Read a chapter, then apply it. Watch a video, then move. The identity of the seeker. Many people addicted to inspiration adopt a dangerous identity, the seeker. They see themselves as someone who's always learning, always preparing, always working on themselves. But there's a fine line between growth and avoidance. If you're always seeking and never doing, then inspiration has become another mask for fear. You're hiding from the discomfort of action by convincing yourself that learning is enough. The truth is, learning without execution is just entertainment, breaking free from inspiration addiction. So how do you escape this trap? Set a limit. Restrict motivational consumption. For example, 10 minutes a day. Enough for a spark, not enough for a binge. Pair with action. Make a rule. Every time you consume inspiration, you must take one action immediately afterward. No exceptions. Shift identity. Stop identifying as a seeker and start identifying as a doer. Instead of, I'm someone who loves motivation, say, I'm someone who turns motivation into action. Measure execution, not consumption. Don't track how many books you've read or videos you've watched. Track how many steps you've taken, how many projects you've started, how many habits you've built. From inspiration to discipline. The ultimate cure for inspiration addiction is discipline. Discipline is what carries you when motivation fades. Discipline is what separates the people who start from the people who only dream. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is behavioral. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is lasting. Motivation depends on external input. Discipline depends on internal commitment. If you build discipline, you'll never again be a prisoner to the highs and lows of motivation. You'll act not because you feel like it, but because it's who you are. The comfort of planning. Why preparation becomes procrastination. Planning feels safe. Planning feels productive. Planning gives us the illusion of control. And because of this, planning has become one of the most seductive traps that prevents people from ever starting. On the surface, it looks harmless, even responsible. After all, we're told that failing to plan is planning to fail. But for many, the opposite is true. Too much planning becomes the reason they never act, the seduction of control. When you plan, you feel like you're taming the chaos of the unknown. You build schedules, write lists, design outlines, and map every possible scenario. Each line on paper feels like progress. Each checklist ticked feels like a step closer to the goal. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Planning doesn't create results. Execution does. You can spend weeks or months making the perfect plan, but until you take messy, imperfect action, nothing changes. The trap is that planning delivers emotional satisfaction without the vulnerability of risk. It's safe progress, and that's why so many people get stuck there. When planning becomes procrastination, the difference between useful planning and destructive planning is simple. Useful planning prepares you, destructive planning delays you. Useful planning creates clarity and sets direction. Destructive planning becomes endless revision, endless tweaking, endless just one more detail. You know you've crossed the line when you're rewriting the same goals every week. You're adjusting timelines more than you're executing tasks. You're researching the best tools instead of using the ones you already have. You feel busy, but nothing tangible gets done. At this point, planning isn't preparation. It's procrastination in disguise. The myth of the perfect plan. Why do people cling so tightly to planning? Because they're chasing the myth of the perfect plan. They believe that if they design the perfect roadmap, they can avoid failure entirely. But perfect plans don't exist. The world is unpredictable. Circumstances change. Unexpected challenges appear. No amount of preparation can protect you from reality. The truth is that most successful people don't follow perfect plans. They follow imperfect actions, adjust quickly, and adapt along the way. Success is not about predicting everything in advance. It's about building resilience to handle whatever happens. The emotional safety of planning. Planning also offers emotional safety. When you're planning, you don't have to face criticism, embarrassment, or rejection. You don't have to risk looking foolish or making mistakes. This is why people fall in love with it. They get the satisfaction of working on their goals without the discomfort of actually pursuing them. But deep down, they know the truth. A notebook full of plans won't change their life. Only action will. The planning loop. Many people live inside a dangerous loop. They create a plan. They feel excited for a while. They realize they haven't acted. They feel guilty. To soothe themselves, they create a new plan. The loop repeats endlessly. They keep feeling busy without ever moving forward. This is the planning addiction, and it kills more dreams than failure ever could. Breaking free from the comfort zone of planning. So how do you escape? Set a planning deadline. Limit the amount of time you spend planning. For example, I have 24 hours to create this plan, then I start. By capping planning time, you force yourself into execution. Shift from planning to experimenting. Replace perfect plans with experiments. Instead of saying, here's the 12-month strategy, say, here's what I'll test for the next 7 days. Experiments give you clarity through action, not theory. Act while planning. Planning and acting don't need to be separate stages. You can plan while you move. Begin imperfectly, then adjust your plan as you go. This prevents planning from becoming an excuse to delay. The 70% rule. Many high performers live by the 70% rule. If they feel 70% ready, they begin. They don't wait for full clarity. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They know that 30% of the journey will be figured out along the way. This mindset prevents the trap of waiting until everything is ready. Because, again, everything will never be ready. Starting at 70% is infinitely better than waiting for 100% that never comes. Why action creates better plans. Ironically, the best plans are made after action begins. Why? Because once you're in motion, you gain real data. You see what works and what doesn't. You learn from mistakes. You discover opportunities you couldn't have predicted on paper. Plans made in isolation are based on imagination. Plans made in action are based on reality. That's why the most successful people don't obsess over perfect blueprints. They start moving, then refine their direction along the way. The identity conflict, why people don't see themselves as the type who succeeds. If fear stops you, and overthinking delays you, and planning distracts you, then identity is the deepest trap of all. Because identity determines what you believe about yourself, and what you believe about yourself ultimately determines what you allow yourself to do. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they don't believe they're the type of person who succeeds. This hidden identity conflict silently kills dreams before they even begin. The power of identity. Your identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are. It's the label you wear internally. I'm not disciplined. I'm not consistent. I'm not good with money. I've always been lazy. These may sound like harmless thoughts, but they shape everything. Because the human brain craves consistency, it wants your actions to match your identity. So if your identity is, I'm lazy, your actions will unconsciously prove it. If your identity is, I'm undisciplined, you'll avoid habits that prove otherwise. If your identity is, I'm not successful, you'll sabotage opportunities so that reality aligns with belief. The hidden conflict. Here's the conflict: people want change, but they don't want to change their identity. They say, I want to be successful, while secretly believing I'm not the type of person who succeeds. This creates inner resistance. Every time they try to take action, their subconscious pulls them back. It whispers, who are you to try this? You've failed before, you'll fail again. This isn't who you are. That's why people procrastinate. That's why they quit early. That's why they never start. It's not laziness. It's identity conflict. Identity as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think of identity as a thermostat. If you set a thermostat to 70 degrees and the room heats to 80, the thermostat cools it down. If the room drops to 60, the thermostat warms it up. Its job is to maintain consistency. Your identity works the same way. If you start behaving in a way that's above your self-image, your subconscious finds ways to cool you down. It might create doubt, fear, or distraction until you return to normal. This is why so many people relapse into old habits after short bursts of progress. They're trying to change their actions without changing their identity. Where identity comes from. Identity is shaped by past experiences, failures that left scars. Labels from others, teachers, parents, peers telling you who you are. Repetition, thoughts repeated so often they become beliefs. The tragedy is that most people never question these stories. They accept them as permanent truth. But identity is not fixed. It's learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. Rewriting identity, not overnight, but through repetition and reinforcement. Claim a new identity. Start by choosing a new label. Instead of, I'm not disciplined, claim, I'm becoming disciplined. Instead of, I always quit, claim, I'm the type of person who follows through. Take identity. Aligned actions. Every small action is a vote for the identity you want to build. Go to the gym once, and you cast a vote for being fit. Write one page, and you cast a vote for being a writer. Each vote adds up. Repeat until it sticks over time. Repetition rewires your brain. The new identity becomes familiar, and once it feels normal, your subconscious will protect it just like it once protected the old one. The identity of starters versus non-starters. People who fail before they start identify as non-starters. They say, I'm the type who hesitates. I'm the type who procrastinates. I'm the type who never follows through. Successful people, on the other hand, adopt the identity of starters. They see themselves as the type of person who takes action quickly, even when it's messy. They don't wait until they're perfect. They don't care if it's clumsy. Their identity is anchored in beginning. This one shift makes all the difference. Because once you see yourself as a starter, beginning becomes natural. You don't have to push yourself. You just act, because that's who you are. Why identity matters more than motivation. Motivation fades. Willpower drains. But identity is stable. If you want permanent change, don't focus on temporary motivation, focus on identity. For example, motivation says, I want to work out today. Identity says, I am an athlete, of course I work out. Motivation says, I want to start a business. Identity says, I am an entrepreneur. Of course I start businesses. When your identity aligns with your goals, action becomes automatic. Breaking the cycle. So how do you break free from the identity trap that stops most people before they start? Awareness, notice the old labels you've been carrying. Challenge, question whether they're actually true or just outdated stories. Rewrite, choose new labels that serve the future you want. Reinforce, cast daily votes for the new identity through small actions. Over time, the old self fades, and the new self becomes who you are. Most people fail before they start because they never address the deepest issue, their identity. They want success while still clinging to the identity of someone who doesn't succeed. They want new results without becoming a new person. But success is not just about what you do, it's about who you believe you are. When you shift identity, action flows naturally. You stop sabotaging yourself, you start starting, and the beginning, after all, is where most people never make it. The cost of comfort zones, why safety is the enemy of growth. Most people live their lives inside invisible walls. They build routines that feel safe, environments that feel familiar, and patterns that feel predictable. This is the comfort zone. It feels good, it feels safe. But what most people don't realize is that the comfort zone is the silent killer of growth. It convinces you that you're okay, while it slowly robs you of your potential. The illusion of safety. Inside the comfort zone, life is manageable. You avoid embarrassment, you avoid rejection, you avoid failure. But in avoiding these things, you also avoid progress. Think about it. When was the last time you grew as a person while staying comfortable? True growth requires challenge, it requires struggle, it requires stepping into the unknown. The comfort zone whispers, stay here, it's safe. But in reality, safety is the enemy. Safety kills momentum. Safety breeds stagnation. And stagnation is just another form of failure, one that hides behind the illusion of stability. The biology of comfort. Your brain is wired to keep you safe, not to make you successful. It prefers the familiar because the familiar feels predictable. Predictability equals survival. But here's the paradox. What once kept our ancestors alive now keeps modern people stuck. You won't be eaten by a predator if you try a new career path. You won't be hunted if you speak in public. Yet your nervous system reacts as if these things are dangerous, so you retreat to the comfort zone, mistaking survival for success. The hidden cost of comfort comes with a hidden price tag, the loss of potential. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you weaken your ability to grow. You reinforce the identity of someone who avoids risk. Over time, this cost compounds. You wake up years later realizing you've lived the same day thousands of times instead of building the life you dreamed about. This is why so many people feel restless or unfulfilled, despite having safe lives. They've traded growth for comfort, and the deal always leaves them empty. Comfort versus discomfort, the growth equation. Growth lives on the border of discomfort. It doesn't happen in safety, it happens in the push beyond what's familiar. Comfort says, stay in the job you hate, at least it's stable. Growth says, take the leap, learn, adapt, and build something greater. Comfort says, don't start the workout, you'll be sore. Growth says, push through the pain, and your body will transform. Comfort says, don't post that video, people might judge you. Growth says, share it anyway, and you'll improve through experience. The choice is always between safety now or strength later. Why people cling to comfort? People cling to comfort because discomfort feels like danger. It triggers fear, self-doubt, and uncertainty. They mistake these signals as warnings to stop, when in reality they are signals of growth. Discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is the gym for your character. Every rep of discomfort builds resilience. Every step outside the comfort zone expands your capacity. The truth is, the more often you step into discomfort, the more comfortable it becomes. You stretch your limits, and your comfort zone expands. What once felt terrifying eventually feels normal. Breaking free from the comfort zone. So how do you escape the trap? Start. Small discomfort doesn't have to be extreme. Begin with small pushes, speaking up in a meeting, waking up earlier, trying something new. Small discomforts build tolerance for bigger ones. Reframe discomfort. Stop labeling discomfort as pain. Start labeling it as growth. When you feel nervous, tell yourself, this means I'm expanding. Seek it deliberately. Make it a habit to do one uncomfortable thing daily. Over time, discomfort becomes your new normal. Remember the cost. Remind yourself that staying comfortable is not neutral. It's decline. Comfort now equals regret later. Examples of comfort versus growth. The person who never speaks in public stays safe, but their career stagnates. The one who faces the discomfort grows their influence. The person who avoids rejection never risks love, but also never finds it. The one who dares discomfort finds connection. The person who stays in the comfort of entertainment wastes years. The one who embraces the discomfort of discipline builds mastery. Comfort protects you in the short term. Growth rewards you in the long term. Why comfort feels like failing. Slowly, here's the scary part. Failing in comfort doesn't feel like failing at first. It feels like rest. It feels like safety. But over time, the consequences add up. Missed opportunities, faded dreams, mediocre results. This is why many people wake up in middle age with regret. They didn't fail dramatically. They failed quietly, slowly, by staying too comfortable for too long. Most people fail before they start because they cling to their comfort zones. They confuse safety with success. They choose short-term relief over long-term growth. And in doing so, they lose the very opportunities that could have transformed their lives. But you don't have to make the same trade. You can embrace discomfort as the path to strength. You can step beyond the walls of familiarity and claim the growth that's waiting for you. Because the comfort zone may feel safe, but in reality, it's the most dangerous place of all. The paralysis of comparison. Why measuring against others stops you from starting comparison is one of the most subtle killers of dreams. It rarely announces itself loudly. Instead, it creeps in quietly when you look at someone else's progress, success, or lifestyle and begin to measure your own worth against theirs. And while comparison can sometimes inspire, more often it paralyzes. It convinces you that you're already behind, already too late, already not good enough to even try. This is why so many people fail before they start. They measure their beginning against someone else's middle or end. The social media trap. In today's world, comparison is unavoidable. Open your phone and you're instantly bombarded with carefully curated highlight reels. You see people your age with thriving businesses, sculpted bodies, dream relationships, and financial freedom. What you don't see are the failures, the nights of doubt, the years of slow progress. The human brain wasn't built to process this level of exposure. A century ago, you compared yourself to a handful of neighbors. Today, you compare yourself to millions of people worldwide. And the result? Overwhelm, insecurity, and paralysis. The illusion of already behind. Comparison creates the illusion that you're already behind. You think, they've already achieved what I want. What's the point in starting now? But success is not a race. Life isn't a single track with a finish line. Success is individual. It's personal. And the truth is, you're never behind. You're simply on your timeline. Yet most people let the illusion stop them. They look at someone else's success and conclude that their own effort won't matter, so they never begin. Comparison kills originality. Another danger of comparison is that it kills originality. Instead of pursuing your unique vision, you start copying others. You imitate their style, their path, their methods. And in doing so, you silence your authentic voice. The irony? The people you admire most succeeded precisely because they embraced originality. They carved their own lane. They were willing to be different. But comparison tricks you into becoming a watered-down version of someone else, and watered down never wins. Why comparison feels so natural? Why do we compare ourselves in the first place? Because humans are wired for social belonging. For thousands of years, survival meant fitting in with the tribe. Standing out too much risked rejection, which could be fatal. Today that instinct lingers. We look sideways, checking how we measure up. But what once ensured survival now sabotages success. Constant comparison drains confidence and kills momentum. The cost of comparison. Comparison costs you three things. Clarity. You lose sight of your own goals because you're too busy chasing someone else's. Confidence. You undermine your self-belief by focusing on what you lack. Courage. You hesitate to act because you fear judgment or failure in comparison to others. Together, these costs paralyze. Instead of moving forward, you freeze. And in that freeze, you fail before you even start. Breaking free from comparison. So how do you escape this trap? Shift from competition to inspiration. Stop seeing others as proof of your inadequacy. Start seeing them as proof of possibility. If they did it, it's evidence that you can too. Measure backward, not sideways. Instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Track your own growth. Are you further ahead than last week, last month, last year? That's the only comparison that matters. Limit inputs. If social media fuels comparison, limit your exposure. Curate your feeds. Follow fewer highlight reels and more people who show the process, not just the results. Focus on your lane. Success isn't about being first. It's about being authentic. Stay in your lane, run your race, and honor your journey. The power of individual timelines. One of the most freeing realizations is that everyone has their own timeline. Some succeed at 20, others at 50. Some build empires in a few years. Others take decades. There is no right schedule. When you accept this, comparison loses its grip. You understand that your timeline is yours. The only thing that matters is that you start, because starting is what activates your timeline in the first place. Why starting erases comparison. Here's the paradox. Once you actually begin, comparison loses much of its power. Why? Because action gives you focus. When you're deeply immersed in building, you stop worrying about what others are doing. Your energy shifts inward, not outward. People who act don't have time to obsess over others. They're too busy creating. It's the ones stuck on the sidelines who spend the most time comparing. Most people fail before they start because they paralyze themselves with comparison. They look at others, feel behind, and conclude it's not worth trying. They forget that success is not about beating someone else's timeline. It's about honoring their own. But you don't have to fall for that trap. You can break free by shifting comparison into inspiration, measuring against yourself and focusing on your lane. You can remember that every great journey is personal, unique, and irreplaceable. Because the truth is, the only way to lose is not to start, and comparison is just another excuse to stay still. The real starting line, turning awareness into action, we've explored the hidden traps that keep people from ever beginning: fear, overthinking, inspiration addiction, endless planning, identity conflict, reliance on motivation, comfort zones, and comparison. These are the silent killers of dreams. They stop people not in the middle of their journey, but before they've even taken the first step. Now comes the most important question of all. How do you break free and finally start? How do you turn awareness into action? How do you move from knowing to doing, from dreaming to building, from thinking to becoming? The shift from awareness to decision. Awareness is powerful, but awareness alone changes nothing. You can understand every psychological trap, every excuse, every fear, and still stay stuck. The bridge between awareness and action is decision. Not a casual decision, not a vague intention, but a real, non-negotiable commitment. The moment you decide, I will start, no matter what, the game changes. Decision flips the switch. It shifts your energy from passive to active. It's the line in the sand where you stop dabbling in ideas and begin embodying them. Start small, but start now. One of the biggest lies people believe is that starting must be dramatic. They think it has to be a grand gesture, quitting the job, launching the business, running a marathon. But true beginnings are often small. They're humble. They're messy, and that's okay because the point of starting isn't to finish everything in one day. The point is to create momentum, write one page, record one video, take one walk, make one call. The scale doesn't matter. The act of starting does. Small starts compound into big progress, and once momentum is created, it becomes harder to stop than to continue. Action over perfection. The final barrier to starting is the illusion of perfection. People think they need the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect version of themselves before they begin. But perfection is an illusion. The people you admire didn't start perfectly. They started scared, unprepared, and imperfect. Their secret wasn't perfection. It was persistence. Action, even imperfect action, beats perfect inaction every time. Building a system of starting. If you want to overcome the traps permanently, you must build a system that makes starting automatic. Here are 4 pillars. Identity. First, anchor your identity in being a starter. Say to yourself, I am the type of person who begins quickly. Daily action. Create a rule. Every day take one action toward your goal, no matter how small. Build the habit of motion. Environment design. Shape your surroundings to make starting easier. Remove friction. Put your running shoes by the door. Keep your writing tools ready. Reduce obstacles. Accountability. Share your goals with someone you trust. Let external accountability reinforce internal discipline. The freedom of starting. When you finally start, something liberating happens. Fear loses its grip. Overthinking quiets down. Comparison fades into the background. Why? Because action pulls you into the present. Instead of obsessing about what might happen, you deal with what is happening. Instead of dreaming about a future self, you become the present self who is acting. Starting is freedom. It's the release valve that breaks the pressure of procrastination. It's the cure for the endless cycle of waiting. The new story. Most people carry a story of hesitation. I always quit. I never follow through. I can't start. That story has shaped their identity. But the moment you start, you create a new story. Even the smallest action rewrites the narrative. You move from being someone who doesn't start to someone who begins. This new story grows stronger with each step. Eventually, it becomes your truth. You are no longer defined by hesitation. You are defined by momentum. The truth about failure. Let's end with the truth that flips failure on its head. Failure isn't starting and not succeeding. Failure is not starting at all. The person who tries and fails has gained experience, knowledge, and resilience. The person who never starts has gained nothing. One is on the path to eventual success, the other is stuck at zero. Failure is feedback. Failure is growth. Failure is the tuition you pay for mastery. But you can't fail forward if you never begin. So why do most people fail before they even start? Because they let fear, overthinking, inspiration, addiction, planning, identity conflict, motivation, comfort zones, and comparison hold them hostage. But you're not most people. You've seen the traps. You've exposed the excuses. You know the truth. The only way forward is to start. Start small. Start messy. Start scared. But start because once you begin, you've already succeeded in the most important battle, the battle to cross the starting line. And once you cross it, the world opens. Opportunities appear. Momentum builds. And the life you've been waiting for finally begins.